In 2021, scientists did what history books never could. They locked the Viking presence in America to a single year, 1021 CE, 471 years before Columbus. This proof didn't come from legends, but from a cosmic fingerprint frozen in 3 pieces of wood. What they found wasn't just earlier, it changes the entire timeline of European exploration. But the true story of why the Vikings came, how far they went, and why they left is only now being revealed. The evidence turns everything you thought you knew upside down if you know where to look. A solar storm in 993 left a sharp spike of carbon-14 in the atmosphere. Every tree alive that year locked in the signal. For decades, carbon dating at Lons aux Meadows could only narrow Viking activity to a span of centuries. But in a lab at the University of Groningen, Michael D. and his team found a way to break through that uncertainty. They took 3 wooden fragments, each from a different tree, each with its bark edge intact. Using a mass spectrometer, they measured the carbon-14 levels ring by ring, searching for the unmistakable spike from 993. Once they found it, they counted forward. 28 rings, 1 for each year. The last ring ended at the bark, the year the tree was cut. All 3 samples pointed to the same answer, 1021 CE. Not an estimate, but a fixed moment. The odds of 3 separate trees, all cut by Vikings, all landing on the same year by chance, are astronomical. The method even revealed the season each tree was felled. For the first time, the presence of Europeans in the Americas before Columbus became a matter of scientific record, not legend. The cosmic fingerprint in those tree rings closed the gap between saga and certainty. The timeline of exploration, once a blur, snapped into sharp focus. On the northern tip of Newfoundland, 8 turf and timber buildings rise from the boggy ground. Their walls are thick, built to withstand North Atlantic winds. One structure stretches 60 feet, a longhouse, unmistakably Viking in style. In 1960, Helge Ingstad and Anne Steine Ingstad uncovered these remains, revealing a Viking base camp thousands of miles from Scandinavia. Scattered throughout the site, wood chips and scraps bear the clean, angled cuts of metal axes. Local native peoples used stone tools. Metal blades belonged to the Vikings. The evidence is direct, physical, and undeniable. Inside a small workshop, archaeologists found a smithy where iron was smelted and tools were repaired. Every artifact pointed to a community skilled in shipbuilding and woodcraft, far from home but well prepared. Decades after the first excavation, a new chapter unfolded in a freezer in Nova Scotia. Birgitta Wallace, who spent years at Lons aux Meadows, preserved hundreds of wooden fragments in cold storage. She understood that future science might reveal what was invisible in the 1970s. The wood, marked by Viking axes and protected from decay, waited quietly for technology to catch up. When the samples finally reached the lab, their condition was pristine, ready to yield secrets that would change the understanding of early transatlantic contact. The frozen archive, patiently kept for decades, became the key to confirming the Vikings' presence in North America, not as a legend, but as a fact preserved in wood and earth. 3 butternut shells and a chunk of butternut wood turned up in the midden at Lons aux Meadows. Butternuts do not grow in Newfoundland land. Their wild range stops about 1,000 kilometers to the south in what is now New Brunswick. The shells are unmistakable, Juglans cinerea, native to the forests along the St. Lawrence and the rivers of the Canadian Maritimes. No Viking ship could have drifted into a butternut grove by accident. Someone traveled south, found the trees, gathered the nuts, and brought them all the way back to the northern base camp. The Sagas called this land Vinland, wineland, because of wild grapes. Grapes do not grow in Newfoundland either, but they do grow in the same places as butternuts. The geography lines up. The old stories of Norse explorers sailing past endless coastlines, searching for resources, start to look less like legend and more like a travel log. No indigenous group in Newfoundland used butternuts for food or tools. The shells and the wood arrived with the Vikings, carried by hand or in the hold of a longship. These southern clues, botanical outliers in a northern bog, prove the Norse did not just reach North America. They explored it. The evidence suggests a network of voyages, supply runs, and reconnaissance stretching far beyond the windswept tip of Newfoundland. The base camp at Lans Os Meadows was only the beginning. Gudrid Thorbjarnardottir stepped ashore in the New World carrying more than supplies. She carried her unborn child. The sagas remember her as a traveler who had already crossed the North Atlantic once. That was a rare feat for anyone, especially a woman in the early 11th century. On the Vinland expedition, she and husband Thorfinn Karlsefni set out to trade and explore. They also aimed to build a life. In the wilds of North America, Gudrid gave birth to a son named Snorri Thorfinnsson. He is the first known child of European parents born in the Americas. He arrived around the year 1005. Snorri spent his earliest years among the turf walls of the Viking base camp. When the family returned to Iceland, their story did not fade. Gudrid later made a pilgrimage to Rome, and her journey was recorded in medieval manuscripts. Snorri's descendants became bishops. Their names were written into Icelandic history. The saga of Vinland is not only about distant voyages, it is also about families, beginnings, and a legacy that stretched across continents. Trade with native peoples began with simple exchanges, milk, cloth, and furs. But trust broke down quickly. The sagas recall a bull from Greenland charging out of the woods. The sudden sight sent the Skraelings fleeing in fear. That shock turned to anger. Later violence erupted. During one attack, the men retreated. Freydis, pregnant and unarmed, grabbed a fallen sword and stood her ground. Her defiance stalled the attackers, but it could not change the ODDS. Scandinavia counted fewer than 1 million people. Viking Greenland had only a few thousand. Across eastern North America, native peoples numbered in the hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions. The Vikings were a handful of outsiders in a land already claimed. Over a decade, spread across 30 years, they realized the truth. No matter their skills or courage, they could not outlast the numbers against them. The base camp at Lans Os Meadows was abandoned. Its walls were left to the wind and moss. Researchers are now tracing Viking footsteps with tools the Norse could never imagine. Teams use high-resolution satellite imagery to scan hundreds of kilometers of Newfoundland and Labrador's rugged coastline, searching for the faintest sign of another Norse base camp. Each pixel is checked for patterns, rectangles in the bog, faint traces under the moss that might point to buried walls or ancient hearths. At the same time, geneticists are following a different trail. DNA from Viking-age walrus ivory, found in medieval European churches and graves, has revealed trade routes stretching deep into the high Arctic. These routes connect Norse Greenland with distant hunting grounds, suggesting a network that spanned thousands of miles. The sagas spoke of multiple Vinland camps, but so far, only Lans Os Meadows has been confirmed. The unanswered questions drive the search. How many sites remain undiscovered? How far did the Vikings really go? With every new scan and every DNA sample, the map of Norse exploration expands. The next breakthrough could be waiting beneath a patch of tundra or in a fragment of bone ready to rewrite the story once again. The exact date, 1021 CE, rewrites who touched American shores first. As new technology scans the coasts, the story keeps evolving. Science proves legends can become fact. The real question now, how many other truths have been waiting, frozen, for discovery? Thanks for watching. Share your thoughts below.